Friends, I'm very happy to be here in Memphis on the invitation of my friend Peter Abel and his beautiful wife Alison and their two lovely kids that they have opened their house for my short visit here and enabled me to meet so many of their friends, especially those who are interested in following a spiritual way of life. And those who follow the spiritual way of life, no matter what type of path they follow, are all co-travelers to the same destination. Our destination, if you are on a spiritual path, is always the same. It's our true home where we belong. We have come away from the true home. This is not the place where we really belong. We have come here for a short period. While we are wearing our human bodies, we know it's very short because these bodies we shed away after a short time. In terms of cosmic time, where we talk of billions of years, 100 years, 80 years, 120 years is a very short period. So we are here wearing these bodies for a very short period. And during that period, we have a great opportunity to go back to our true home. And this should be done while we are still in the body, because once we leave the body, we have no idea whether we will have this ability to seek to go to our true home. In order to seek and to find, we have to be having an experience called free will, to make a choice. We know that in other forms of life, there is no choice making. Nobody has the free will to make a choice. But in human form, we have the ability to make a choice. And that free will enables us to seek. And to seek is to be able to find. That's always been the law, that if you can be a seeker, one day you will find. Whatever you seek, you find. Even in this physical world, when we seek something and we put our attention on that, we achieve it. So the secret of finding out our true home and being able to realize it while we are human beings is to seek. Seek in our hearts. Not seek by shouting loudly for it. Because who is going to hear us? When we seek, who hears us? Something inside. The truth is that the reality, our own true kingdom, our own true home, is within ourselves and not outside. The kingdom of God lies within us, never outside. Outside is a created universe. The creator is inside, not outside. Therefore, if we want to seek, we have to seek inside, not outside. People say, what does it mean to seek inside? Where do we see? What is inside? Well, let's see what we think is our own self at this moment. We have assigned names to ourselves by our parents, by the church, by somebody who has said, call this body of yours by a particular name, and we assume that name and we think that is the self. Somebody addresses us by that name and we respond as if that is ourself. Which means we have totally identified ourselves with a physical body, and we think this is ourself. And we think everything that happens is within ourselves. That may be true or may not be true. Maybe we have some other form of life which was pre-existing before we had this physical body. Maybe we have an afterlife in which we have another form which is not this physical body, and therefore we are not sure. We don't remember if we had another form earlier or not, and we certainly don't know what will happen after we die in this physical body. This is all left to guesswork, or faith, or somebody's telling us some story about it. But personally we know nothing. Personally we think this body of ours is ourself. If that is true, and even if it is not true, so far as we believe it is true, that this body of ours is ourself, then when we say the kingdom of God is within us, We are talking of inside this body, not outside. We can't be looking out from here and say we are finding out the kingdom. We have made things outside. A whole nature has been created outside. A whole creation exists outside. But the creator must be inside this body. Now, when we want to explore, is it possible to actually explore what is inside this body? We look at the body. We are constantly looking outside through our eyes, through other sense perceptions, our ears, our touch, smell, taste. We are always using these to look outside. How do we look inside? People say, by prayer you can do it. Close your eyes and look inside. When we close our eyes, it's all dark. At least when we open our eyes, we can see something. When we close our eyes, we're not seeing anything. And all we see is just the color of the lights from outside. And we are still looking outside. By closing eyes, we don't go anywhere else. We're still there. We are still trying to look outside because the only way we know of looking is with these eyes. We close our eyes and still try to look outside. There must be a better way of trying to explore what is inside. And if something is inside this body, where could it be? Supposing we are a spirit form, a soul. Let's, just for the sake of argument, imagine we are a unit of consciousness called the soul, and that is providing life to this body. That is providing life to our mind to think. That is providing the power and energy to our sense perceptions to function. Supposing we believe that we are a spirit or a soul, where would the soul be in this body? Let's explore. Could it be in our hands and our feet? They seem to be the most removed from where we are thinking about it. They seem to be the most removed from where we are asking this question. We come down to the torso, we come to the heart. Ultimately, we discover that where we operate from as a waking human being is from behind the eyes in our head. It's from the brain that we do all these things. So whatever the truth is, it is lying inside our head, in the brain. Would it not be an interesting exploration if we could just go inside our brain and study, are we really there? Is there a soul there? Are we a soul? Can we practically check that out? Would be a great exploration. And now what the mystics and saints have said is, it is possible to do so. They have been saying it for centuries, the same thing. And they say, know yourself, find yourself inside yourself. And all they are pointing out is that your real self, your soul, is lying inside yourself in your head. Go behind the eyes. We don't know how to go behind the eyes, but there's one method. And that is with the power of imagination. We can imagine any place we want to go to. We can imagine we are on top of this building. We can imagine we are in another city. The power of imagination is a gift given to us. Very powerful gift. Everything that we have produced in this world is with the power of imagination. Everything we are doing now, creatively, productively, is with the power of imagination. So the power of imagination cannot be underestimated. It cannot be called purely as imaginary thing. The power of imagination leads to concrete action. Can we use the power of imagination to imagine that we are actually sitting in the head? It makes it even simpler if we were to consider that this body is a temporary abode, a temporary house given to us to live in. And we are living in this house and using it. It's a movable, mobile home of ours. And we have a very nice place from where we operate it. That would be behind the eyes. If I were to describe this house we call the human body, I would say it has got 6 floors. 6 floors because there are definite energy centers, the 6 centers that separate the functions of different parts of the body, and they can be likened to 6 floors, 6 levels of a house. Starting from the bottom, we go step by step and go to the 6th floor behind the eyes. If we close our eyes and imagine that we are there on the 6th floor of our house, sitting in the center of our beautiful 6th floor house, from where we can look out. If we want, we can open our windows or close the windows. We can decorate the house with our imagination. Supposing we did that behind the eyes and imagine, what are we really doing? We are putting our attention within ourselves. I said imagination is a great gift. Attention is even more important a gift which we have been given. Because when you are aware of things, you cannot change the awareness. We are sitting in this room and the whole room is what it is. Just by looking at the room, we don't change it. Awareness of the room is totally fixed. But we can put attention on one corner of it. We put attention on that picture, put attention on what I am saying, put attention on any person. So what we have is a movable part of our awareness, which is attention, human attention. And human attention can be placed wherever you like. Human attention can be taking you anywhere in the world through imagination. Now let's put the two things together. We put our attention in the area which we think we are imagining we are inside our head. Put our attention there. Think of nothing else but what is there. That means withdraw our attention from outside things which are holding our attention at this time because of our desires, our attachments, and our interests that have been developed in everything around us, outside of us, and not inside. Now we are making an effort to put ourselves inside ourselves in this body, which we think is ourself, and wait and watch what happens next. Now, these are big gifts, imagination, and the power to move your attention where you like. There's a third gift, the power to concentrate your attention wherever you like. There's a third big gift we have been given, all of us. When we go to an orchestra, a lot of musical instruments playing there, and we like the drums or the pipes, we like one particular item, particular musical instrument, and we put attention on that and concentrate on listening to that, what is our experience? The drums become louder, the others become less loud. And there, nothing is happening there. We are altering it, altering our perception of the sound of the drums by our own power of concentration. The power of concentration is so remarkable that if you concentrate on something, you gradually become unaware of other things around. This is just an example I gave. But if you're concentrating on reading a book, you're sometimes not aware what's happening around you. The more you concentrate, the less aware you are of other things. Now that is the real secret of discovering who you are. That you can put your attention and concentrate it behind the eyes, inside, at a spot between the eyes and behind, very often referred to as a third eye or single eye. That single eye is because these two eyes, when we are looking out, we are not looking to images. They are being put together to create the sense of distance, the stereoscopic effect that is coming from the two eyes. Where are we seeing from? Where do the two pictures coalesce to become one? Even now, while we are looking at things, we are not looking to the pictures through the eyes. Eyes are being used to draw the images, put them together, and it's being put together behind these eyes in the center. And that's where we always see from. That's where we always think from. That's where we always ask questions from. And that's called the third eye center. It's just a name given because that's the location in the center of our head where our consciousness is operating when we are awake in a physical body. It's a simple way of describing. The single eye, which is behind the eyes, has been likened to a door opening to our own reality. If thine eye be single, thy whole body shall be filled with light. We have heard that. It is absolutely true. It is literally true. If you could really concentrate your attention to your imaginative self behind the eyes, there will be so much light you have never seen outside. This is not somebody's particular privilege to have this experience. Any one of us can have it. It's open to us. The problem has not been that this is not open to us. The problem has been from childhood till our death, we are putting our attention constantly on things outside. We are creating our desires and attachments for things outside. Never cared to withdraw attention to our own self. And by this simple mechanism, which is true meditation, which is true finding out your own self, true introspection. By true introspection, you can put your attention inside and open up the light that is there, and anyone can see them. It's so wonderful to be able to know that there is something far more real than what you're seeing outside. Not only that, you discover that the one who is now moving around in the 6th floor of this building is your own self. It's not somebody else. It's your own conscious self that is moving inside, that's creating that experience inside. And you can have so many experiences. This little head of ours, when we think of this body, it's a small space. Now put your attention there and concentrate, what will happen? When you concentrate, you become unaware of other things. First you become unaware of where you are. Then you become unaware of where your hands and feet are. See serious meditators, how they go about it. When you are concentrating your attention behind, you don't know where your hands are, where your feet are. You forget, ultimately you forget your whole body where it is. Then where are you? When you become unaware of your body, you become totally aware of what is happening inside. And that becomes your reality and yourself. That is the first step that you can discover. This body is not yourself. That there is something inside. And that operates independently of the body. We're just using it temporarily. It's a big discovery of the first level of our own self besides this body. After that, we know that the body is temporary. The name given to the body was temporary. We are here for a temporary use in order to have a physical, material experience. That's the only purpose of this body. Of course, the bigger purpose of life is that in this body, while the other self is installed into it, embedded into it, we have the strange experience of free will, that we are making our own choices, which enables us to seek, even to find out who we are inside. So there's a great use of having a physical body like that. It's not merely meant to be used for being born, eating, drinking, having sex, making kids, getting old and dying. Surely that could not be the purpose. This is the same thing that's happening to all animals. It's happening to all forms of life. There must be some distinction between a human body and all other forms of life. They have no choice. None of the other forms of life have the deliberative choice. Deliberative choice means to be able to think, should I do it or not do it? Is it right or is it wrong? The whole moral code is missing. A friend of mine wrote to me the other day from Israel, and she is practicing different kinds of meditations there. And she said she has a dog, and she feels the dog has the same sense of choice making like a human being has. She says, I don't see any distinction. You say only human beings have that deliberative choice. My dog looks at it. If I offer 2 kinds of food, the dog looks around and then decides which one to take. Where's the difference? I said, difference is the dog goes by its taste. Dog never says, is it evil? Is it good? Is it moral? Nobody else does it. No other form of life does it except a human being. The whole role of morality, the whole role of being able to distinguish between good and evil is only the exclusive privilege of a human being. And that is exactly the privilege which enables us to choose that is good, to choose which is wise, to choose which is the best thing for us. The deliberative choice means that we see the choices open and then we decide which one to take. Now this is what makes us a seeker, and this is the great ability available to human beings alone out of so many species of life. In our Indian scriptures, there is a part where they list all the species of life forms. They start from the plant life, and then they go on to describe insects, and then they go on to describe snakes and venoms and crawling insects and all kinds of things, and then they go on to mammals, and they go on to fish and fowl, and ultimately, in the last category, out of 8.4 million species they have recorded there. It's a huge list. The last 400,000 includes angels, include higher conscious being, disembodied spirits, ghosts. They include all those plus human being. And this one human being, out of all of those 8.4 million species of life, which has deliberative free will with morality to choose between good and evil. So it's an amazing gift to have a human body. To have a human life is a great gift, and then to have the power of imagination and attention, and movable attention, and the power to concentrate attention enables us to find our way back home to our true self, enables us to find who we are. Now, I just mentioned that if we practice this kind of meditation and we draw our attention within, we will become unaware of the body and discover we have a body. If we can stay long enough in those states regularly, we will be able to recall things that happened to that body inside, which did not happen to this physical body. For example, you'll be able to find out what happened 200 years ago to yourself. This body doesn't exist for that long, and you are recalling events that happened 200 years ago. People go to get past life regressions, and somebody tells them, you were previously in a certain previous body, and you did this in a past life. Some people believe it, some people don't believe it. But when you have your own experience, that there is something inside you which can recall what happened, and recall that you were not this body, but you were something else. And to be able to get your own personal memory back is the greatest proof of a pre-life and an afterlife. There is no doctrine to prove it. There is no external belief system to prove it. The best is a personal experience of going within and finding out who we are. You will also notice that the power of seeing belongs to the inner self, not to the self. How do we see by imagination? If these eyes were the only one that were seeing, can we imagine and see something? Can we imagine and see something that we remember earlier, or can we imagine and see things that we have never seen? The power of imagination provides for that. So seeing is not seeing with these eyes. Seeing is something more than that. Hearing is something more than hearing with the ears. All the five senses that we are using in order to have the perceptions of this universe are available to us even without this body. The truth is that the inner body contains all the sense perceptions. It is actually made up of only sense perceptions. There's no matter. There is no physical molecules or atoms in that. But it is functioning like this body. It's similar to that body. You can imagine when you want to walk around in that inner space, which expands. When you become unaware of this body, that whole space in the head expands into a universe. And you can fly and go anywhere there. It's a very interesting experience. I'm not talking of an experience people have psychically or with their heart chakra or some yogas to have out-of-body experience connected with a silver cord to themselves and still thinking this is the reality and we had an out-of-body experience, we rush back to be real in the physical self. Not that. I'm talking of being unaware of this body through withdrawal of attention to behind the eyes and opening up the secret of who you are inside. And this can be done by anybody. This is, in fact, has been the message, the spiritual message of all religions, which said, discover yourself within yourself. This is not something that you can be calling it a religion. It is something that is all religions say that's how you can find the truth. It's a method of applying your religion within yourself. But there are some more fundamental truths that can be revealed by just this process of going within. You can go within yourself in this body and make yourself unaware of it and discover the truth. You can go inside the other bodies also. You can even go within your sense perceptions and find out they were also created form around you. That is not your real self. You can keep on moving like this till you discover that your own reality is the totality of consciousness, the creative power. That creative power that created all these covers upon ourselves and created all the universes around us through these covers and through these methods of perception. When you reach the destination and find you are the totality of consciousness, you are one. And all these were dream-like sequences that were created, and the one became the many because of that process. It's a self-discovery we can do while we are human beings. That creative power, which creates everything, including all our experiences, including all of us, there is no language to describe it. No language in the world has been able to describe something out of space and time. There is no space, no time, only that creative power. For want of any language, for want of any word, we have been calling it the Word. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. How best could you describe it? There's no other description that the creative power itself was created by a power which we can't describe except by calling it the Word. It's not only the Christian Bible that says that. The Hindu Rig Veda describes the same thing almost as a translation of John's Gospel. The first few verses of John's Gospel are translated into Sanskrit, where it says, in the beginning was the sound, the Nad. The Nad was the creative power, the Nad was the creator. This is a translation. You go into other traditions and you find same thing said. What is this creative power that we can't describe except call it the Word? And how does it manifest? We say that if Son of God, if somebody having the awareness of that state comes as a human being, we say Word made flesh. That the same power becomes flesh. We are all made with the same power as human beings. Can we tap into that too? Yes, we can. We have the ability and opportunity and a privilege as human beings to tap right up to what the Word is. The secret is that the Word, being the creative power, never leaves us, no matter what the experiences are. The Word continues to manifest in us, no matter where we are, what form we take. It is not dependent on the form we have taken. There was a Chinese philosopher. His name was Fa Hin. He had a dream. In the dream, he felt he was a butterfly. And he flew about in a garden, flapping his wings and going from flower to flower. But then he saw the flowers were so beautiful. They had such radiant color. There was light coming out of those flowers. They were illuminated. He had never seen such beautiful flowers. He said, this must be heaven. I must be really in my own true home in heaven. And then he woke up and he said, that was such a more real experience in my dream compared to this one. Am I really Fa Hin, the philosopher? Or am I really a butterfly having an experience as a dream that I am Fa Hin, the philosopher? What's my reality? The butterfly or this? The experience of the butterfly was more real than the experience of this philosopher. He told his friends, he said, I had a very strange dream that I was a butterfly and I was flying in a garden and I saw such beautiful real things, more real than this world. The friends said to him, Fa Hin, don't be stupid. You are a human being. You cannot be a butterfly. You are not a butterfly. You just had a dream in which you saw a butterfly. He said, I never saw a butterfly. I was a butterfly. He said, how did you know it was you? If you are not even a human form and you butterfly, how did you know it was you? He said, I know the self was the same. This self which makes me human being and makes me feel this is me, this is myself. The butterfly had the same self, not a different one. So the self was the one that went through, and even when you became a butterfly, it was still the same self. The amazing thing is that when you have these inner experiences and have different forms, including formlessness, the self remains the same. So the self itself is a continuation of the power, creative power, which we call the word. The self is what is being expressed as the word in our own life. Each one of us feels we have a self. Where is the self? Self is inside. We call ourselves. We change the definition depending upon what we identify the self with. That Faheen identified the self with a butterfly, became a butterfly and still knew the same self. We have an experience of the self in these human bodies. We say, this is myself. And then we change form, we're still the same self. We keep on changing forms till we reach totality and find we are one and still the same self. There's no change. So if there is one thing that has never changed, that is the self. Everything else changes. All our experiences change, self never changes. So therefore, when we talk of the word, it is being expressed in our life, in our experiences, constantly as the self. Now, is there a way to see, supposing we have no experience, supposing the whole creation ceases, ends, and only the self remains, how do we know we are the self? Now, the beauty is that the self has a resonance. The self has music. The self has a music. The self is audible. The self can be heard, even with nothing else. That is why we call it the word, because it's audible. That's why we call it sound. It's audible. That's why we call it nad. All these expressions that have been used to describe the ultimate creative power, because even sitting here as human beings, it can be heard. Now, how do we listen to the self? Can we really listen to the self? We always listen to things outside. Sometimes we listen to our thoughts. Sometimes we listen to imaginative music going on inside. But can we listen to the music or the sound of the self? The answer is yes, we can. By withdrawing attention as close as possible to the self. The very exercise I was mentioning, which is a meditative exercise to how to imagine and be with yourself, generates that experience of listening to yourself. Now that's the most beautiful thing on the spiritual path. To be able to see the resonance and to experience the resonance and the music of your own self is the shortest way, is a shortcut to your true home, to your true heaven. And that is why the different methods of meditation, I have tried many. Being born in a country with yoga, yogis, all these are so all over, and religious teaching is there, of every denomination there, I found out that ultimately what the real truth can be found no matter what your religion is, no matter what your belief system is. Truth can be found by listening to your own self. That led to a bigger discovery than that there are two parts of our consciousness. One speaks and one listens. The speaking part is called the mind, the human mind. It thinks, that is speaking. It uses language, uses images, still speaks. And then there is our own soul, our self, which listens to what is happening. Our true self is a listener. And the mind that has been given to us to use is a speaker. We communicate through the mind. We express our creativeness through the mind. We do everything with the mind. It's given to us to be used. But we don't use it. We are supposed to be using our mind to think what we like to think, to do things that the self determines what is to be done. What has happened is we have put the cart before the horse and we have put the mind ahead of ourselves, and the mind thinks for us and tells us what to do. Look at your lives. What a mess we have created of ourselves only because of this one fact, that we allowed the mind to dictate what we should be doing. We have become followers of our own mind, which was given to us as a great help to be able to do things that we want the mind to do. The mind was delivered to us like a big machine, like a computer, like an accessory to consciousness. And we have allowed the mind to become our master. And whatever the mind thinks, we try to follow. We try to get guidance from the mind. We think the thought process is the only one that can tell us what to do. How have we forgotten that our own self has other functions, other faculties, independent from the mind's faculties, which are more reliable, which are more of our own self. What are these other faculties? The mind can only speak, think, reason, put reasoning together, make sense of things, use logic, deductive logic, inductive logic, all kinds of forms of synthesis that put together things and say, I understand. Or analyze, break open things and say, I understand. It makes sense to me. That's what the mind does. The mind doesn't do what the soul does. What does the soul does? Soul gives us intuitive knowledge, intuition. Mind can't do it. You can't think yourself into intuition. In the intuitive power is directly of our soul, of ourself. It comes without time and space, whereas the mind cannot function without it. The mind cannot think even a smallest thought without using time and space. The soul does not need that time and space. And the intuitive knowledge comes automatically to us. That gut feeling, where does it come from? That's from our own self. The intuitive self is our own function, which we can use and employ in our daily life. We don't use it. If an intuitive gut feeling comes, we override it by thinking about it. We give more credence to what the mind can do and take it higher level of truth than our own intuitive self. Therefore, we are living lopsided. We should have been using the power of our soul, the intuitive knowledge, the gut feeling we get, make decisions on that basis, and make the mind work them out. Tell the mind, now carry this thing out. Would have been a totally different life. Our life can change from today if this change is made by us. There's another function. The soul alone is performing. The mind with all its power to think, power to rationalize, power to put things together, power to make sense, does not have the power to love. The power to love comes from the soul directly. Have we not seen? We fall in love, then what happens? The mind steps in. How can you be sure? You create doubt. The mind creates doubt even about a very definite thing that we are experiencing. Love is not a function of the mind, never has been. It's a function of our soul. Third function, appreciation of beauty, joy, and that bliss that we can experience. Mind cannot do it. You can think as hard as you like, you can't have that appreciation which comes up automatically from yourself. Here are at least 3 functions that the soul is performing every day for us, and we negate them and put the mind ahead of this. Naturally, we are in a mess. We are using a slave of ours, a servant of ours to rule over us. How can we be happy? How can we get any contentment from an adventure for which we came into this life? We never came into this life for suffering only. There may be some good reason for suffering, and we can go into that, why suffering is necessary in an experience like that. But definitely, that was not the intention of a soul, to have experiences just for suffering. The experience was to generate the kind of experience you want with your intuitive knowledge, with your love, with your appreciation. We are ignoring those things and relying constantly on what we're thinking are. And all our conclusions are based upon thinking. You reverse this for 1 week and see the difference. Say, from tomorrow I am going to live with my gut feeling. Take my decisions on gut feeling and direct the mind to carry it out. Your life will change. The mind does not even let us trust this fact. Mind will not let us step into this. No, it's too big a risk. How can you trust your intuition? How can you trust your gut feeling? And we accept it. We accept this, something that the mind is telling us, we are accepting so easily. Think of the mind as a machine, as an accessory. It's something that's very useful. If we use the mind according to what our self needs, if we direct the mind to think in the lines on which we want. And methods have been suggested to us how to do this. We say, do some singing of hymns, chanting, meditation, mantra, repeat words, holy words. What does that mean? Why do we do it? So that the mind cannot think of the normal things, bizarre things it thinks, and we put these chosen words to replace them. It is to replace the words of thought that we try to put these words in order to control the mind. We can take it a step further and control the mind by various kinds of means which are called meditational techniques, by which we can handle the mind and bring it our own control and direct it to do what we like. Our life changes right from here. And then if we have introspection and we can go within and see, we can see exactly how these components of our consciousness operate. It's no use speculating from outside. It is no use sitting outside and having a big debate on it. We have had too much debate. There's a great debate going on for centuries on whether, when we look at a tree, are we creating the tree and looking at it, or the tree is real and therefore we are looking at it? Look at this debate. It's not ended. The materialists say there is an empirical outside world existing, and without that you can't have any perception. That you can only perceive what is actually existing outside. The idealists say, no, how does perception take place? Where are you seeing things from? Look at a simple example of vision, sight. Because I took the example of a tree. Is the tree there because it is there and then you're looking at it? Or are you looking and creating a tree and therefore it is there? Let's see what science says about the power of vision, of the physical eyes. It says the tree has to be there and light must fall upon it. In the darkness you can't see it. Light must fall upon the tree, and near parallel rays it must come to your physical eyes, and there it must enter the eye and through the aqueous and vitreous humor and the lens inside form an inverted image on the retina. This is the biological scientific explanation. The retina is an extension of the optic nerve, and the optic nerve carries it to the optic center in the brain, and if you are conscious, you can see the tree. That's the process. They describe this process in very great detail, that the process of seeing a tree takes place when you are conscious. Supposing you're not conscious, the eyes can be open, you don't see it. Ultimately, when you are conscious, and the brain optic center receives this message, receives the necessary signals, then you see. Imagine for a moment, supposing the retina of a human being in the eye had the power to make images and made an image of a tree. It would send the same signal all the way up. You will see a tree as you see now. The fact the tree is at a distance is because you're using two eyes. But if the retina can make pictures, you will see the tree exactly. Now forget about the retina. Supposing the brain, optic center, the brain can make these pictures, you will still see the tree exactly as it is. Even forget that. Supposing consciousness that is eventually picking up this picture, the consciousness can create, which it has power of imagination, we already know. Supposing consciousness can create a picture of a tree, it will transmit instantly the same image on the optic nerve to the retina. It will create the same picture of the tree outside. Which is the causal direction? Tree to seeing or seeing to tree? Debate is going on for thousands of years on this. Why? Because the simple answer would be whatever comes first would be the cause. If the tree comes first and then we see it, then we would say the tree has to be there to see it. But if we see the tree and then we can project the tree outside, we know we are creating a tree. The truth is there is no time gap between the tree and the seeing of the tree. Not even a nanosecond. They're simultaneous. Because they're simultaneous experiences, we have never been able to determine which is the causal direction. Are we creating trees? Are we creating the whole universe ourselves and just experiencing it? Or universe has been created independently? We just came for a short visit for 100 years. The debate continues because we debate outside. We don't go inside to see what is consciousness. We don't go inside to see how the system operates. And yet there is a method available by which you can go inside and verify yourself what happens. And that method is how to withdraw your attention within yourself and practice it, and you get the secrets of this creation known to you. Of course, the secrets of creation will reveal to you that everything has been created from consciousness. Consciousness is the creative power. Consciousness is a power which is also being expressed as our self. Consciousness is the power that creates the feeling of self, which remains the same self no matter what our form, or even if there is no form. And that's the ultimate source of our all experiences. And that is what we discover if we go back to that state, which I call our true home. I think that is where we belong. That's where we came from. That's where we really belong. We came for experiences here. And haven't we had enough? I think if you look at our lives, we have had enough of it. Only that person becomes a real seeker of the truth and looks for truth within himself, who says, I'm fed up with this. I've had enough. Once a friend of mine came, he said, look, you are telling people to go and search for truth inside. I am very happy outside. I got a lot of money. I got a nice house, nice car, nice family, and I enjoy myself. Why should I go inside? I don't have to. Sorry, you're not the fit candidate for this kind of thing. You should enjoy your life. 1 week later, he came and cried. His life was miserable. He had been ditched by 2 women first, and he then had been lost something there. And he said, I am in such great misery. I said, what happened in 1 week? In 1 week you change so much. See, we just make believe these things. They don't give us happiness. If you look around this world, go around and find out. Spend 2 days, 3 days in the home of a person who looks happy and who you think is happy, and you'll find out the truth. There is so much misery and unhappiness. Is this our home? Could this be our home? Is that the nature of our consciousness, to be having this kind of suffering? Not at all. Then what's the reason for this suffering? The reason is simple. I just mentioned in the beginning, the power of consciousness, the power of the self, to experience intuition, intuitive knowledge, love, the power to feel being loved and loving, that special function is only a spiritual function of the soul, and the power to appreciate. Now let's look at the third. We didn't discuss too much. What's the third one? If we are living in our own true home where there is no duality, there is no suffering, there is no unhappiness, would we appreciate it? Isn't consciousness built to have appreciation or even experience based upon opposites? Don't we over here have all experiences in consciousness only because there are opposites existing? We see this light here. Imagine for a moment if there was no darkness at all. Whether we open our eyes or close our eyes, that there is always light. Do you know we would never have seen it? We wouldn't even know it exists. Darkness came and made light visible to us. And therefore, if there was no unhappiness in this world, would we ever have an experience of happiness? You will notice every experience we are having is based upon pairs of opposites. Now, our true home is beyond pairs of opposites. How do we appreciate it? By creating an experience of opposite of that. A world of duality has been created so we can experience and appreciate a world of non-duality, our true home. A very good reason for the purpose of creation, and a very good reason for the purpose of our taking human life. In order to have this experience, to go back, temporary experience, illusory experience, for a short while, to have permanent appreciation of an immortal, permanent home of ours. A good justification for creation itself. You will notice that this is the reason why we go through this world of duality, including pain and pleasure. And it's a real opposite of our true home. And we go back appreciate. If you imagine there are millions, trillions of souls sitting in our home, they never left that home. They are living in the true home forever, dancing and singing in bliss, because they are in a blissful state. And then we who've been here, we go back to our true home. And we dance even more and sing even louder. And they say, what is special about you? You are the same souls like we are. And our answer will be, you don't know what you're missing. You've never seen anything else to be able to appreciate what you already have. So therefore, this whole creation is very perfectly balanced. It's perfectly poised to create an appreciation of our immortality and of our immortal home. I want to suggest to you that this is not just a theoretical model I'm presenting. It is a practical thing one can do. There are people today who introspect, who meditate, and have these experiences, and they can guide us. We may not know, we may falter, not understanding how to hold our attention inside. They can give guidance on a step-by-step basis. And as seekers, as co-travelers on a spiritual path to the same destination, it's useful to find such people who can take us. Because how will they pull us there to our true home? The easiest way is to discover ourselves, and the easiest way to pull ourselves to the self is the power of love. You will see that people who have that kind of awareness, they don't pull us by their teachings. They don't pull us by their discourses. They pull us by the power of love. Ultimately, nothing succeeds better than the power of love which originates from our true home and is part of our soul. And that's why if somebody says there is a system of meditation that can take you to the highest awareness and does not include love and devotion, reject it. Because the mind can only take you up to the level of the mind. The mind does not go into our true home. The mind is joined as an accessory at a lower level. After we have experienced individuation from totality, become souls instead of total one being, one source. When you become individual souls, after that the mind comes into play. The mind does not go all the way to our true home. And if you practice anything with the mind, all mental exercises, including meditation as a mental exercise, does not take you beyond the mind. But love, unconditional love, of one who is already operating from that level of awareness, pulls us there and takes us there. Such people are still available. They were always available. Not that they only came once or twice or disappeared. That would be very unfair to all the seekers if they just appeared once and then disappeared for leaving the rest to destruction and this kind of destiny. No, they appear. They appear, they pull us by their love and compassion. They don't judge us because judgment is mental. Their love is unconditional. They will extend love to you, and you'll experience in their association. They will extend love to you whether you love them or not, whether you hate them or not, whether you crucify them or not. They will still love you. That's the kind of unconditional love you experience from them. I'm sure that you, being seekers, will have a chance to meet such people and get help on your way to the spiritual destination you all seek. I'm very happy to meet all of you again. I once again want to thank Peter, who I call Peter the Great. Thank you, Peter. We'll take a short break now, and I think there is some food for the body. I gave you only food for thought. And you enjoy the break, and I'll come again and answer any questions you have. If you have questions, then you can write on these papers.
Questions, just here's the cards and a pen. Just write them down, and at 3 o'clock submit them to me. And enjoy your lunch.